Good afternoon, everybody. Captain Bill Gustin with Miami-Dade Fire Rescue, coming to you live from Loveland Sims, Ohio. I've been invited to participate in their officer development boot camp this last week. It's quite an honor and a privilege. This is for those of you that are not familiar with Loveland Sims. I'm sure you're familiar with the good Chief Goldfeder. This is the department that he works for, and they've been wonderful hosts. The topic today is going to be the merits and the drawbacks of vent, enter, search, or if you want to be technical about it, vent, enter, isolate, search. I'd like to begin the session by reminding everybody that we're sponsored by Key Fire Hose, which is that's an easy endorsement for me because that's what I use on my apparatus, and I rely on it heavily. And I will give it a hearty endorsement that comes from the heart because it is excellent fire hose. And believe me, if somebody calls me up, somebody emails me and asks me what hose I would recommend, that's the hose I would recommend because I've got a fairly long history with it. It has the greatest balance between maneuverability, kink resistance, and abrasion and heat resistance. So it's great stuff, manufactured in Dothan, Alabama. Also, folks, if you want to participate in this, you can go to hashtag at Fire Engineering, FE Talk. Let's begin by introducing each other. I'm going to start left to right that I see on my screen. The elderly gentleman on the left there looks fairly familiar. If you'd like to introduce yourself to everybody there, Chief Halton.
I'm Bobby Halton. I'm the Editor-in-Chief of Fire Engineering and Education, Editorial Director for Fire Apparatus and Fire Rescue Magazines, and the Educational Director for FDIC.
And then the fella next to him, that rather young-looking fella, looks like he's just past puberty, and looks like he's just got out of high school. This is Clark Lamping from the Clark County Fire Department in the Las Vegas area.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Clark Lamping. I'm a captain with Clark County Fire, just like Captain Gustin said. I currently work on Las Vegas Boulevard, Station 11, and have a whole row of billion-dollar properties in my first due. So happy to be here, and looking forward to today's discussion.
Clark is going to really take the center stage at this discussion today because right before Christmas, his company conducted a very successful, if not totally conventional, vent, enter, search operation that he's going to share his experiences and lessons learned with us. And then to Clark's right, as I'm looking at the screen, is this the handsome, hairless Dan Shaw. If you can just tell a little bit about yourself.
Sure thing. You know, I don't know if I was looking forward more to the Google Hangout or what your introduction would be, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Dan Shaw. I'm a battalion chief in Fairfax County, Virginia. Also have the distinct privilege of being one of the vice presidents for Traditions Training. And lastly, I co-authored the book 25 to Survive with my dear good friend, Lieutenant Doug Mitchell from the FDNY, and really looking forward to a great conversation again.
And Dan, I hear through a little bird from my contacts, spies, if you will, you are in the busiest battalion in Fairfax County because you're taking the accidents on the interstates.
I am the interstate chief, but we were the busiest battalion beforehand, but it's a new initiative by my fire chief to have a battalion chief on all our interstate incidents. And since the Beltway's hours, our 1.2 million people have to get somewhere.
And fellas, that is a topic for another day, but we're definitely going to have to attack, as we solve all the fire services problems, incidents on the roadway. Now, not to be undone, or outdid, I should say, by the lack of hair or good looks, is our good friend Eric Roden. If you could give yourself a short introduction.
Appreciate it, Bill. Welcome, everybody, to our Hangout today. My name is Eric Roden. I'm the Editor-in-Chief of Fire Rescue Magazine, and I'm also a Battalion Chief with the Fighting 5th Battalion of the Milwaukee Fire Department.
All right, and then that fella after that that's rocking in his chair right now, he's rocking and rolling. Jason?
Hello, yeah, I'm Jason Hovelman. I'm from Florissant Valley Fire Protection District, Battalion Chief, North St. Louis County, and co-owner and lead instructor for Engine House Training, and we'll be at FDIC this year, and looking forward to another great conversation, and thanks for the opportunity.
He has the dubious distinction of being on a company that runs aid to Ferguson, Missouri, in the same area. So he's seen quite a bit of work recently. And then the elderly gentleman there to the right, if he could go ahead and introduce for people that could possibly not know him. I don't know how that could be the case.
How you doing? Mike Dugan, Rush Tank Chairman. Damn glad to be here. I'm retired from Ladder 123 in Brooklyn, New York. And Brooklyn is the borough of short buildings and tall stories. But have a lot of fun, a lot of great time in the FDNY. So I'm here with my partner, Bill Gustin, and we are going to talk about how these, the VEIS and how it is impacting the fire service today.
All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to begin with Captain Lamping, and he's going to give us an account of his company's successful VEIS operation that occurred right before the holidays. So why don't you take the center stage, Clark, and hopefully we can get some lessons learned, things that went well, things that maybe you, if you had to do it over again, you'd do over again. But that's why we're here, so to learn from your experiences.
Okay. First, a couple things, Captain Gustin. It wasn't actually my company. My truck was on the scene, but I wasn't on duty that day. But it was members from the Clark County Fire Department. And second of all, this wasn't your traditional VEIS. This was more of, I would call it an interior search initiated from a second-story window. So the details on the call are en route. We had a full alarm for a building fire, a two-story home that was on fire, and we had reports of a confirmed victim. So friends of mine on Engine 21 would be, that was their first in. Engine 21's en route, and they were discussing the fact that, all right, typically in my organization, first in gets fire attack. So they're saying, we're going to be fire attack. The captain was talking to the two firefighters. We're probably going to get fire attack, but also it sounds like we're going to be doing some search operations for a confirmed victim. So I'd like a window, I'd like a ladder thrown to the second-story window as secondary egress. Right behind Engine 21 was Engine 24. Typically, they would assume the search assignment. So what happened is Engine 21 arrives with Engine 24 directly behind them. As they pull out, they see a two-story single-family home with a room, downstairs room, Alpha Delta corner on fire. We have fire auto venting from an Alpha window and a Delta corner in the building, in the downstairs building. As they arrive, a witness says that there is a woman in a bedroom directly above the fire room, that she had her window open. She was screaming for help. She could not get out. We found out later that she had recent back surgery. She could not self-evacuate, so she had opened her bedroom window before the fire self-vented, and she was calling for help from the neighbors. We also found out later that a neighbor went around the back of the house to the Charlie side, opened up the slider to see if he could access. He encountered heavy heat and smoke, so he left the building and left the back slider open, creating a flow path. At that point, the windows on Alpha and Delta self-vented, and we had a flow path going right through there. The fire and the smoke were going right up into the victim's window, and then the witness said that the victim was calling for help. She retreated into the window and disappeared. Hadn't heard from her or seen her since. So the Engine 21, whose original plan was to go fire attack, the captain determined, we're going to go in, we're going to ladder the window right next to the victim's window because they couldn't access the victim's window. We still had smoke and fire going into that window, so they chose what they identified as a bedroom right next to that window. They laddered that window with a 24-foot extension ladder. They went up and they opened up the window, broke the window out. The firefighter at the tip of the ladder reported heavy heat and smoke as he opened that window. All right. Went inside, he and another firefighter. By the way, these two firefighters, we had a 2-year firefighter and a 3-year firefighter conducting this operation. 2 new guys. So they both entered that room. They did a real quick search of that room, and then they knew the location where the victim was, so they entered the hallway, made their way down a hallway, heavy heat, low visibility in the hallway. They located another small bathroom, a hallway bathroom, did a real rapid search of a hallway bathroom. They continued down the hall. The bedroom door was open of the victim's bedroom. She was located right behind the bedroom door. So they went in the bedroom, closed the door behind them, packaged this woman, and in the meantime, Engine 24 had pulled hoses off, and they conducted an exterior fire attack with a 2.5 right through the windows. So one of the firefighters I talked to on engine 21, who was in the hallway with the victim, said as we went into the bedroom, he was thinking to himself, it is so hot in this hallway, there's no way this victim's going to survive if we take her down this hallway. And then he said immediately, he didn't know why, but he said we noticed an immediate drop in temperature. And that's what we found out later was when engine 24 put the 2.5 in the window, they extinguished the majority of the fire. And the engine 21 firefighter in the hallway says he could immediately notice a reduction in the temperature. They drugged their victim down the hallway back to the room where the ladder was, handed her to a captain who was at the tip of the ladder. Actually, it was the captain on engine 24, because the captain on engine 21, who was originally the tip of the ladder, he was getting nervous because he couldn't find his guys, he couldn't maintain voice contact with his guys, so he went into the room as well. And as he was going into the room, he was going to go down the hallway, he met his firefighters coming back into the room. So the three of those, the captain, the two firefighters, took the victim, handed the victim onto the tip of the ladder where the engine captain from 24 was there, and they took her down the ladder. And victims, this was December 9th, and victim's still alive today.
Clark, I think your assessment or your description of it being an interior search that started from the exterior through a window is brilliant. And I don't even like you, but I just got to give you credit where credit is due. Now, would you be able to share with us some of the lessons learned, lessons reinforced? If they had to do it over again, would they? And you know, it's no matter how good we are, what makes us really good is we have a chance to be our own worst critics, to evaluate our performance. And if you could just share with us some of the lessons learned, reinforce, and maybe some of the things, if anything, would they have done differently?
I talked to the captain, and the captain said he was originally thinking interior search through the front door, but he said if the visibility was low and he was high, he says he wouldn't know if he could access the stairs. He wouldn't be able to find the interior stairs as quickly as he think he could have if he went into a window. So he says he absolutely sticks by his decision. He sticks by his decision to enter the second floor window instead of go on the first floor and try to find the interior stairway. They said it worked very, very well, and I think it speaks volumes for our training division. Like I said, it was a 2-year firefighter and a 3-year firefighter, and these guys said that they went back to the training they received in the academy. We spent a lot of time studying search in the academy, and they said we acted as we were trained. They sounded the floor when they entered, they climbed in, they had a rapid search, right-hand search, and one thing we always stress is when you enter a room, check behind the door. The firefighter said he opened the door a crack, he reached behind the door, and he located the victim right behind the door. And so I think it speaks volumes to our training division that you can have a 2-year guy and a 3-year guy in this hallway by themselves with zero visibility making a search while their captain was on the tip of the ladder. So all in all, I don't think we would have done much differently. Again, if the second engine was delayed, yes, we might have had different tactics. We would have had water on the fire earlier, but because the second engine was right behind the first engine, the officer in the window said he had no doubt that we would have water on the fire pretty quickly.
You know, I think it was a brilliant operation, Clark, and I really appreciate you sharing it with us. Does anybody in our group here have any questions for Clark?
Yeah, I got one real quick. We talk a lot about sounding floors and sounding roofs, etc., etc. In regards to that, Clark, how do you or how does your organization train people to sound? Because I've seen everything from where people kind of do this gentle tapping with a pike pole or gentle tapping with a tool, or do you really give it a solid hit? Because I think the gentle probing is insufficient, in my opinion, to gauge whether or not you've got a structure or a floor that can take your weight. Whereas if someone gives a substantial whack with a substantial tool, you get a much better read.
I agree completely, Chief, and that is what we teach in our academy. We teach, first of all, we're going to try to use a 6-foot tool, either a trash hook or a pike pole. The reason for that is the guys use an axe. They're already committed with the air pack if they're straddling the window seal and they're using a 32-inch axe to lean over into that room so far enough. If you try to strike the floor hard, you're already committed. If that floor gives way, the weight of your body, your air pack is going to take you inside that room. So we always teach, use a 6-foot tool, and as soon as you take the window, we teach a gentle tapping right below the window sill looking for a victim. If there's no soft tissue or anything right under, then we train heavy hits, pound that floor to make sure it's structurally sound. But like I said, we don't do that first off in case there is a victim right at the bottom of the window. We don't want to be striking the victim.
I have a question, Clark.
Yes, sir.
In your fire academy, do you also teach the people, and I don't know this building, but was this a newer, lightweight constructed building?
It was probably a 15 to 20-year-old house, Captain Dugan, but everything, not everything, 95% of everything we have in Las Vegas is lightweight construction.
Well, one of the things that we are teaching that I think is a really good tactic is if they're going in the window, they sound the floor, as we said, and they bring that 6-foot tool, but before they go in, they also pop a hole in the ceiling over their head to see if the fire is in the truss space over their head, and we have them poke a hole in the truss space over your head, because if the fire's in the truss space over your head, if you have a victim right there at the window, you're going in. But I'm not having people go into a bedroom across the hall and everything else if the fire is in one of those lightweight construction. And we will talk more about this next month when we do our lightweight construction talk, and we talk about the large buildings and the fires that we're having in them. But I think it's a good tactic for our fire academies to get in the habit of teaching our newer people is to open up a hole over your head before you go in the window.
That's a good point, Captain Dugan. We don't, for the VES operation, we don't teach poking a hole in the sheetrock above, but for fire attack we do. We're trained as soon as you cross the threshold, you pull ceiling down and look above you. Put the tick up in the hole. That's fine, but like I said, we don't teach that for VES. Sounds like a pretty good idea. I'm definitely going to bring that to the training division.
Jason, do you have any questions for the good Captain Lamping?
I really don't. I'd like to know. Is there video or pictures? I'd like to see how that all went, because it sounds like a typical or a fire that we could have, something similar to that, because we're faced with the same kind of construction, the 15, 20-year-old and the lightweight stuff, and it's curious about I'm intrigued by the comments from the crew inside about the reduction in heat. They didn't know what it was from, but from the exterior line, with them being inside there, and how the stairwell configuration was, if it was an open stairwell or a tighter stairwell.
Right. We do have. It was all over the news for a long time, and I'll try to locate that, and maybe we can do some work on putting it on the website or something like that. But the news has good footage of the victim being handed to the captain on the tip of the ladder and taking her down the ladder.
Let me jump in here for a second, just for our panel here and those watching today. We just put up the video of the actual rescue and the story on firefighterNation.com. So if you go to www.firefighterNation.com, the video is up. Just definitely a dramatic video. It definitely shows the end result and the successful rescue. So if you want to put the conversation in the context of what we're talking about today, it is up and available.
Excellent.
And Clark, I am curious about the stairwell configuration. If it's a big open, 2-story open atrium type foyer, or if it was just an enclosed stairwell, in regards to the heat reduction and the effects of that exterior stream.
Right. Typically they're open stairwells. I don't know the exact layout of this building, but typically it is going to be an open stairwell. The big floor plans, the great rooms are real popular for 20 years now. That's been the configuration of the construction. And the problem with the interior searches, most of the time, as soon as you walk in the front door, the bottom of your stairs are right there. But there are times that they're farther back. You can't look, zero visibility. It's going to take you a minute to search that first floor and find the base of that stairwell. So that's what the captain at the ladder was thinking about when he decided to go in the window.
Excellent. Any questions, Dan, for the good Chief Captain Lamping?
No, Jason hit the ones I was interested in, and I think the rest of the group did. Excellent job.
Thank you. I tell you what, I can't be more proud of my department. We are so proud of these guys and the training they had and the work they performed that day. It was fantastic. What a great group of guys we had.
Well, I actually do have a question from the peanut gallery here. I have throngs of admirers here sitting here with me. You don't see them within the range of the camera, but we are going to have quite a personality come aboard here, and he may have a few comments to say about Captain Lamping's company's rescue here. I'll let this fella here. Go ahead, sir. Take a seat there just for a second.
Well, first of all, we have to do a little marketing because that's how way shit works around here.
All right, all right.
We can see both of you still just fine, Bill. Your camera has you both in view.
This is one of these things that is going to be funnier later than it is right now.
There's two guys in here that can barely work a computer.
Is that Alan Brunacini with you?
Younger, less stressed. No Hawaiian shirt.
Well, you know, we're just discussing. I don't know if Bill tapped you in, Billy, but we were just discussing, you know, VEIS as a tactic, and Clark was kind enough to share with us a detailed description of a recent fire where it wasn't so much a VEIS operation, as Clark pointed out, as more or less a second-story search technique done off a ladder. The first story well involved, and they had reported victims on the second floor. So several great comments came up, and Eric was kind enough to let us know that he's posted the video of that particular rescue on Firefighter Nation. I don't know if you had a chance to see it, the Vegas rescue, second story rescue.
I did have a chance to listen to what you were talking about. My only comment is, once again, training pays off. I don't know what else to tell you. You know, I visit, like many of you, I visit a lot of fire departments, and they're always looking for something to train on, or they're not training. And you know, it's like the football team that doesn't practice. It's predictable you're going to lose. Only they lose a Super Bowl, we lose a lot worse. And the training paid off again. And you can hear in the captain's voice, which also struck me as I was standing on the side here, is how damn proud he is that it did work, and they do train, and they take it seriously. And I don't care if you do one fire or 1,000 fires. You gotta be ready for that run. And you know, we've been saying it for a million years, and there really is no option. And it really falls down to leadership. Sometimes the leadership comes from below, where the company crews or the firefighters themselves initiate the training, and that's great. But unfortunately, there are times where that doesn't happen. And then it's incumbent upon the leadership to make sure that training's happening. And you know, people, well, our chief doesn't do this or that. It doesn't matter to me. You have a company, you have a fire truck, and you have people. There's your training ground. That's all you need. And as our friend Gordon says, every day a training day. And I forget, where did was it John? Maybe it was John Salka just put this somewhere on some social media, that if you're not training for 2 hours a day, if you're a career on-duty department, then you're totally missing the boat. And for volunteer departments, at least a couple hours a week. And I don't know why it's so hard, but to get people motivated to training is a challenge.
Well, part of the issue, I think, Billy, and if I'll just chime in real quickly, is that people, the trainers, are looking for those train-to-trainer opportunities. And might you know of a great conference where they actually have a VEIS class that's actually a hands-on train-the-trainer class that's occurring in the near future?
Let me just reach for this money under the table. Why, yes, I do. Look, this will be my 33rd year teaching and 36th attending. There's a lot of great conferences out there. You know, period. There's a lot of opportunity, but you can go to the local ones and the regional ones. That's great, but you have to make it your business to go to FDIC. And I just can't. And I spend year-round telling people, if you've been to FDIC, you got to go. And whether it's the VEIS class you're talking about, Bobby, or it's some of the leadership trainings, or what happens when the classes are not in session, when we're spending time just meeting each other, talking to each other, at the restaurants, on the streets, or whatever. There's no excuse. You got to have that on your bucket list. And once it is, clear some stuff off, because you're going to continue to return year after year after year.
Hey, Billy, my friend says FDIC. He's from Australia, and he's going back this year for his 3rd year in a row. He says it's cracked.
That's Scott Thompson.
No, that's Rick Owen, isn't it?
No, it's Phil Paff.
See, we got a whole bunch of Australians going. See?
Yep.
Yep. He's coming back for the 3rd year in a row. He says it's FDIC is crack for firemen.
That's fantastic.
You know, we like to promote the fact that we're a regional conference, except that the region we cover is the globe.
Right, yeah. Yeah. No, it is. It's like I said. I mean, my first
53,
one.
53 nations were there last year, with over 6,000 people represented by those 53 nations. And this year we actually have 15 instructors from outside the continental North America. I mean, 15, Australians and Brits and Italians, and so it's really pretty amazing when you think of how it's kind of it's kind of a global fire conference for people that the International Instructor Society. Both of them are meeting there. The guys, of course, are International Society of Fire Service Instructors, but then the International Workshop Instructors are holding their meetings there. So it's a neat conference. I just had to throw in a shameless plug. I apologize. We should get back to our topic.
My first one was in Memphis in the early 70s, and I think there were 8 pieces of apparatus and about 50 or 60 vendors. And we used to, I mean, someday maybe we ought to do a hangout just talking about the old FDIC, because there's some really great stories. But we would travel with boxes and boxes of slide trays, carousels, and we would meet in each other's rooms. And I mean, there were some rooms you couldn't get in. And I'm going to show you what I'm doing in Wisconsin on tankers on Thursday at my room at 7 p.m. We'll have some chips, bring some beer, whatever. And that's still going on, only modern. We're doing it in the restaurants. We're doing it by showing each other's iPhones and saying, well, here's the prop we're using. But that spirit is still there. And you know what? Bring us your unmotivated, bring us your angry, bring us your burned out, and we will fix that problem for you that week.
And the best part is now we're doing it on pin drives, and we don't have to use those slide trays anymore, because anybody who's ever dropped a slide tray knows how bad that is.
That's terrible. Well, listen, I'm going to head back downstairs. As you know, we've got Bill taught for us. We have a regional program we do here. All our officers are required to go through a boot camp every year, no matter what rank you're in, for 3 days. And then we do some hands-on every 6 months. And we've got Forrest Reeder down there teaching today. We had Bill yesterday, and we had Bob Burns from FDNY. And it's a great week. We got about 100 folks down there from our region. And but I do appreciate the opportunity to stop in and on behalf of our chief of department, Ott Huber, who most of you know, Ott. He's thrilled that you wanted to do this show from here, and I stuck one of our helmets there so it shows our department's logo. And I look forward to seeing all you very soon, in just a couple of weeks.
Chief Goldfelder, I got one more thing for you, brother.
Go.
Chief, I got to say, you were so influential in my career and the careers of so many young guys. When I get a new guy to my station, the very first thing they do when they set foot in their office, I tell them, open up your email right now and subscribe to the secret list right now. That's the first thing you will do when you work for my station. And every single one of them does, and I cannot tell you how much quality information and how many people you are influencing here in Clark County Fire Department just by your writings and your speakings, Chief. So thank you very much.
Well, you're very kind. It's a labor of love. The numbers that we get out to are insane, and we're just glad people are listening. The most recent was sent out just a little while ago, not far from you, Bobby. In Oklahoma, a fire chief was working on a truck yesterday, and something went wrong, and it exploded, and he's stable, but his injuries are pretty critical. We get it up on
yeah, that was from Bristow, Oklahoma, yeah. And he's currently at St. John's Medical right here in Tulsa.
Cool. Hey, thanks for your comments, Cap, and I look forward to seeing all of you real soon. Take care.
I appreciate the cameo. Thank you, Billy.
Thanks very much, Bill. I want to remind everybody that we are sponsored by Key Fire Hose, and again, that's the hose that I use on my company, that my department uses, and that's at, you can get the information about Key Hose from keyfire.com, and you can participate in the discussion with us at #FireEngineering ALK Talk. Can I just interject something here? Just was it either last month or the month before, Chief Halton, you asked us to pray for Steve Pergam's wife. And I understand that she is undergoing a remarkable recovery and that those prayers have been answered.
That's absolutely true. It's actually a miracle. Molly is a very small woman, so adult lungs were just too big, and so it was just a miracle because she was literally out of options and near death, and Steve and the family were with her, and just a miracle through everyone's prayers and thoughts and the tremendous support that the fire service had. At literally the last moment, a set of lungs were found. Molly had very little issues in terms of the acceptance, in terms of the not rejecting the tissue. She did very, very well. She was able to return home. She's just, it's absolutely a blessing, and thank you to everyone. There's, and not to sound too preachy, but I truly believe in the power of prayer. I think that it's a huge issue, and a lot of people today would have you believe that maybe that's not the modern or cool thing to do, but if you're really cool, you'll pray for people, and there's lots of folks out there besides Molly today that can use your prayers that are struggling with cancers and struggling with other health issues and mental health issues. So keep all your brother and sister firefighters in your thoughts and prayers. But I know Steve, who hosts our first Wednesday of every week, Steve hosts our our training Google Hangout, is extremely grateful for all your thoughts and prayers and all your good wishes to him and his family, for all your financial support, for all your physical support that the firefighters in the region were able to give him. And Molly is recovering well, and thank you for bringing it up, Bill.
All right, I'm going to go ahead with a couple of topics here, and it actually makes me happy. I've got like a dozen topics, and we like scratch the surface on 2 of them, but that just means that everything's going along well, and we can carry on a month after month. I'm going to combine both questions. Think about this, fellas. Do you think that there is a segment of the fire service that has embraced VES to the point that it is taking a higher priority over interior search? A lot of this has to do with this question as well. Does your department have the staffing to perform VES simultaneously with an interior search? And I really think, I'm not familiar with the staffing in Milwaukee, but I think really the only department here that's being represented is by Chief Captain Dugan on the FDNY, where they have enough people on a truck company where they're not standing on the sidewalk thinking, okay, what should we do, Vish? What should we do? Should we put ladders up to the porch roof? Should we take a ladder around the back bedroom window? Or should we get companies inside to do an interior search? It's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but your company has the resources, your department has the resources to do both. Most of us are on departments that are going to have to make a critical decision. Do we VES or do we initiate an interior search? Mike, if you could weigh in on that a little bit.
I think you're 100% right. I mean, the joke is the New York City Fire Department is the Chinese Army. They just keep coming over to hell. I mean, the more people, we got 5 firefighters and an officer on every ladder, 4 firefighters and an officer on every engine. And on an all-hands fire, we're going to get 3 ladders, 4 engines, a squad, and a rescue, and each of them have 5 firefighters and an officer. So we're going to get a lot of people. We're going to get a lot of people. The thing that I think makes New York City do these things so well is, again, it goes back to what we've been talking about, is the training. Our people are trained from day one on size up of the building. What type of construction is this? Is this a brownstone? Is this a row frame? Is this a fireproof multiple dwelling? Is it a non-fireproof multiple dwelling? And the positions that these people go to, they differ based on the building type. We don't go immediately to the roof of a private dwelling. First alarm companies never go to the roof of a private dwelling. Not one of the things we do. We will go inside and search for life. Okay, the ventilation in the attic, we don't really care about saving all the crap that's stored in the attic. So we prioritize our jobs based on the construction type. And again, every fire is a little different. What you have is your reports and everything else. And I think the big thing about this is determining what the crucial step is at the specific fire situation you are at. What is important? Because we always talk about, you know, the search, and we're searching for life, but we also have to remember that the only known life hazard on the fire ground right now is our firefighters.
All right, it's an excellent point. It's an excellent point, and I'm in no way am I discouraging the implementation of VES, but my gosh, if you can get water on the fire and allow firefighters to either get past the fire, turn a left, get down the hallway to the bedrooms, or get to the top of the stairs of the bedrooms, if the house, if it's a private dwelling that has a conventional floor plan, all the bedrooms are grouped together. And the more that we deviate from the normal means of egress, stairway, hallway, doorway, and resort to things like ladders and windows, the more dangerous it is for our people and the occupants, and the more personnel intensive it is to get somebody out. So, Jason Hovelman, would you want to weigh in on that just a little bit?
Yeah, for us, we don't have the manning to do both at the same time, and we eventually get the manning there, and really in short order. You know, you're talking 5 minutes or so that we'll have enough units there. But you know, on a regular day in our area, you know, we get 6 pieces of apparatus on a first alarm residential, but all of those apparatus, at the most, we're going to have 12 on most days, especially with vacations and minimum staffing. Each one of those is riding with 3 people on it. That includes the engineer. So, you know, if they're all with 3, you're talking about 12 total people, and the last 3 apparatus are coming in pretty late. So we've really come to a place in our department, or my career department now, my volunteer department's way different. But the career department, we really kind of had to boil down to what Captain Dugan was talking about, and what is going to do the most good immediately for whatever situation we might have. And more times than not, it's getting the line to the fire as quickly as possible. And usually by the time we're getting water on the fire, there is a crew to come in behind and start that search. Now, we have somebody hanging from a window, things of that nature. Obviously, those decisions change a little bit, but large majority of the time, due to our manning and our capabilities, we're wanting to take the threat away as quickly as we can, and it's worked well for us.
You know, you can either, when we rescue people, when we protect life, we have a choice. We can either take the civilian away from the harm by a physical rescue, or we can take the harm away from the civilian by improving the conditions, in other words, putting water on the fire. Another point I wanted to make is, and I've experienced this firsthand, I think one of the worst mistakes that a small suburban or rural and understaffed fire department can make is try to emulate and operate like a big city fire department, because they end up not doing anything well because they're too spread out trying to do too many things at the same time. Jason, you talked about priorities. You're going to have to choose what's crucial, as Captain Dugan said. And when you're on a small department, you're not going to be able to do everything that a big city fire department can do in a timely and simultaneous fashion. So it really is important for you to set your priorities when you have limited resources.
You know, Bill, we had that exact conversation at our place when we started our training division. You go to FDIC and other conferences, and you read the articles and the webcasts from, you know, masters of the craft from the urban departments. And what we talk about is you can take those specific skill sets that they use, the actual skills that they deploy at New York, at Chicago, into larger urban areas, and use them at your department, but to deploy the type of resources we can't do. So we have to change how we do it a little bit. But when we're searching, we're still trying to use the specific skills that those places are teaching, because they've been proven and they work. And that's kind of the approach that we've taken with how we deploy and operate.
Eric, in Milwaukee, I had the pleasure and privilege of teaching there for Chief Conway, and I was very impressed with your department. It operates very similar to what I was used to in the Chicago area. Do you have resources to conduct both an interior search and a VES operation at the same time?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we staff our trucks with 4 and/or 5, depending on the company, and we also have 2 rescue companies in the city that run with 5. So We always have somebody available to do it, but I'd like to back up and just kind of agree with everybody and disagree at the same time by saying, regardless of staffing, you can pull it off if you have a hose line in progress, stretched, and in flowing water. Obviously, the faster we get water on the fire, the faster things improve. To use, I guess, a shop-worn adage in the fire service. But if you have, obviously, if we're taking care of the fire and we're not able to advance alongside that hose line and we have a known life hazard, it only takes one person and one on the ground keeping an eye on that person going in the window to initiate a vent or search operation. You can vent the window with a ladder, you can vent it with a 6-foot hook, you can make that happen. So and in all reality, if we took a look at extinguishment, it's 2 or 3 people on a hose line that are putting the fire out, and even if you have only 10 or 12 people and they're arriving within 5 minutes, you can initiate that operation. But obviously, we have resources that we can dedicate to that specific function. We do incorporate it when it's needed. Obviously, when there's a known life hazard, and we're having obviously an issue getting searching alongside or ahead of the hose line, we'll put that operation into play. But I guess my question for the group is, I guess to build on this conversation is, what is I guess when we look at all the truck company functions on a fireground forcible entry, just conventional right or left-hand search. What is an acceptable operation to withhold during a VEIS? And maybe I gave it away in the beginning of my point here, but I guess what are we willing to withhold if we have 4 people on the fire ground to initiate a VEIS operation? Going on, I guess, on the premise of my belief that you can do that. How do we accomplish that, or what would we withhold from that?
Well, it gets back to training, but also, don't you think there are certain circumstances that just indicate VEIS?
Absolutely.
You have a frantic parent that is looking right in the window and say, my little girl's bedroom is right there. If you can take, for a 1-story house, my company carries a short ladder, like about a 5-foot ladder, just enough to get up into a 1-story bedroom window. We also have a huge problem with burglar bars. So in those situations where somebody is a known or very reliable indication, where we've got somebody trapped in a specific location, yes, it lends itself to that. And we will, at that point, sacrifice somewhat of a smooth hose advance. In other words, we're going to have to be on our A game because we're not going to have all the people necessary to stretch the hose line. That means that we may not do an interior attack. We may be blasting that hose line in a window through the iron bars or whatever, while the rest of our crew is performing a VES operation. In other words, you can't try a hose stretch that requires 4 people when you only have 2. Okay, can I also expand on something, please? Great story. A few years ago, we respond to a report of a house fire with children trapped. We get there, the police are struggling with this lady in the front yard, and she's frantic. So we extend a hose line into the front door, and we're going down the hallway, and I hear the glass breaking, smash, 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 and I'm thinking, this is great, man. This is great. This is a textbook VES operation. Man, we're going after the fire that's in one of the bedrooms, and Rescue 2, which is our medic unit that runs with us, is VES in the bedroom, and you can hear the kids whimpering and crying. Well, negative. It was not Rescue 2. It was the father. Ran home, took a rake, knew exactly where his kids were, right in what bedroom to break, broke the bedroom window with a rake, climbed in, and snatched his 2 kids. I mean, so that is definitely an operation where VEIS worked. That there wasn't much isolation in that operation. Did I answer your question? Oh, well, I think they're getting a run. Yeah. Eric, did I answer your question?
Absolutely, yep. No, it was a good point. I was kind of leading to, in kind of inferring that, obviously our engine operations kind of get discounted when we have that kind of operation or known life hazard in that known location. but we can't delay the start of the hose line, because that's what's going to protect us. In the event we're in that room, we get trapped up there somehow, getting water on that fire is going to add that margin of safety for members on the interior, and making that grab from maybe the floor above on a VES operation.
And Eric, I'll tell you, something for us at Florissant that we've been fortunate enough to start being able to utilize pretty effectively too is our paramedics are cross-trained on the ambulance. And if they're in-house with us, when we respond to a first alarm, we team them up with the engine company. So we may go from a 3-man engine company to a 5-man, or effectively a 4-man. So now I can split up 2 before another engine even gets there. I've got manpower to put water on the fire and do a VES possibly, but it's kind of hit and miss. We're fortunate when they're in-house and are able to respond from the get-go, but through training, kind of like they did with Clark County out there, it's been effective for us, and we can get guys split up on the fire ground right away if needed.
Jason, our departments are similar. We have our medic rescues have an officer and 2 firefighters in every truck tool other than ladders, obviously. And I tell my guys all the time in morning briefing, I remind them that if everything goes right, it's going to be the medic rescue squad company that makes the grab, not the engine, not us, because we're taking the line to the fire. It'll be you guys that make the grab, and it'll be the officer's call of that rescue unit what he wants to do in terms of vent enter search or an interior search.
Yeah, we had a really hard puffing basement fire a couple months ago, and we were fortunate to have the 4 on the apparatus that day, 2 on the ambulance right next to us when we got there. So we had a good crew moving the hose right away. As soon as the hose stopped, and we never had to ask for extra line, we transversed the entire distance of the basement, and never had to ask for a hose. Everybody knew what they're doing. But as soon as they heard water flowing, the 2 guys off the ambulance immediately jumped off the hose, did the primary right away, simultaneously. Nobody was there, but the operation worked seamlessly with the training and them knowing the role.
Brother, when you get the water on the fire and gain some element of control, smash as you go, vent as you can. Go back to like the old days, vent as you search, because we're not going to intensify the fire. The fire's under control. Dan Shaw, any thoughts before we kind of wrap this up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate where I work. I mean, every fire I go to, I mean, I just had one on our last day at work, and there's 41 guys there in under 6 minutes. And we get 2 trucks and a rescue company on the fires, and they each have 4. So simultaneously they can do it. But I think, as to your point of the original conversation, what you're talking about, is that like everything in our trade, everything goes back to our roots, and our roots are in our training. And while you're talking, I was looking at an older 2008 edition of a Basic Firefighter 1 textbook that's given to students. And out of that 1,067-page book, there were 7 pages dedicated to a primary or secondary search, and not 1 page dedicated to VEIS or VES. So I think, for a lot of it goes back to our training, is that if you look at that component, that this is what they're getting. And then very limited fire departments, and I know there is no NFPA standard because I'm on the committee, has a firefighter recertification program. So if you're not in a progressive department that's honing these skills over and over again, really what you hear is this sexy new technique come out called VEIS, some guys in New York do with success, and you implement it. And one of the things we ask in a lot of our classes is, who's been to a VEIS class, a specific VEIS class other than FDIC? And you don't get many arms to go up. So where are you learning this technique from? You ask a lot of people, and they think that VEIS is only for second floor windows. As you said, I mean, it's good for first floor. There are specific conditions that warrant you to do VEIS. So if you take all that information and you say, all right, you have a brand new firefighter who comes into this trade, the basis of their knowledge is 7 pages of a 1,000-page book that taught them about search. He sits down at the kitchen table where all the problems are solved and all the experience is shared, and here's these senior guys talking about VEIS, but because of our bravado, he's not going to raise his hand and say, what does that mean? He's going to think every fire he goes to, of course we vent, we enter, we isolate, we search every fire we go to. So yeah, I VEIS every fire I go to. So I think a lot of it goes back to the training. Obviously the FDNY does a good job with it. This is one of the new things we're putting into our truck manual, is a dedicated section to explain what is VEIS, what are the conditions you need to have it to exist, and then how do you do it with our staffing. Our trucks, on a house fire for me, I get 2 trucks and a rescue squad. Each one has 4. So it works out very good. They always do 2 guys in, 2 guys out, an inside and outside team. And that outside team has all the autonomy when they recognize the conditions and it's warranted. All they have to do is call me and say, hey, Chief, Tower 8, VIS, number 2 floor, Bravo window, Bravo bedroom. Okay, fantastic. And it comes back to that training, is that they recognize the conditions and then they can execute that move. But I would say without the benefit of like the training minutes on fire engineering or FDIC or reading articles, where is someone getting the information to even know how or what VEIS is?
I follow you, and it just goes to show you that the day you say, well, I've got 40 years on the job, 42 years, I've learned enough. And I've mentioned this before. What I liked, and it resonated at FDIC last year, is the amount of highly respected fire officers, experienced fire officers, and instructors that would preface whatever they're saying by, well, knowing what we know now, knowing what I know now, referring to the body of research that has been done throughout the last decade or so. And we're going to wrap this up with final thoughts, but this is just something that and I say this in every one of my classes, I believe that all of this information from National NIST, Underwriters Laboratory, and ATF, all of this research would have gone nowhere in terms of its influence in the fire service if the FDNY had not only jumped on board, but embraced it and actually used that information that they gained at Governor's Island and other locations to actually change some of the things they do. And if a department that traditional and that big can look at itself critically and say, hey, maybe there's better ways for us to do things, if they can do it, then it's incumbent on everybody else that's watching this Google Hangout and their departments to do the same thing. Chief Halton, do you have anything for you before we wrap this up?
No, I think that the remarkable thing to me about, we're talking VES has been around for a long time. Now it's VEIS. We learned to isolate the compartment that we're searching in, control the fire from coming in. We've been talking about that for the last 15, 20 years. I think that what's fascinating to me is that oftentimes I hear folks, as you were just saying, Bill, they'll say things like, the fire service is resistant to change, and this. There is no organization, no industry, I think is a better word, that could compare with the malleability and the flexibility of the American Fire Service. We improvise, redefine, reevaluate, reassess virtually everything we do on a continual basis and have since our inception. It is merely those who would wish to elevate themselves above the common man like the rest of us through some kind of perceived insight who are bantering about this false narrative. So I think that the discussion here today, and what I found to be fascinating, was not can you do VEIS and at the same time staff other critical functions, but the greater question of, if you assess VEIS to be a critical function, a necessary function, because obviously it's a life-saving function, what function might you pull people from to do that? And it's a tough question. But when you're doing a VEIS and if you have limited staffing, that's because there's a savable life, and that becomes, that to me, ahead of, that's the mission. That is the mission. That's the paramount focus of the mission. So if you have to delay another secondary egress ladder, or perhaps delay a 360 or some other function. And then I think that's something that's why I think it's so critical that the next piece of our research isn't so much as to what we do, but to who we are and how we can better collaborate and make better decisions going forward on the fire ground. Just my thoughts.
All right, fellas, I think we're just about at the end. Any final thoughts? Captain Lamping, again, kudos to your department. That rescue is one of the things that makes me so proud to be a firefighter and part of this great fire service.
Absolutely, Cap. One more thing I'd like to add too, kind of
Yes,
tying
sir.
everything
Yeah.
together, what you talked about, the new technology from Governor's Island, and what Chief Halton was just talking about. How are we going to pull men from other assignments to do VEIS? Well, we did an exterior fire application with a 2.5 through the window on the fire we had the rescue in. That firefighter, one person on a 2.5 hose line, managed to put that nozzle in the window and extinguish the whole fire by himself in 15 seconds. 5 years ago, we would have killed him. We would have murdered him on scene for putting a hose line in a window and extinguishing a fire like that. But now we've taken the research, we've taken the technology, and we've embraced it in our organization. And those guys upstairs said that there was no way that victim without respiratory protection was going to make it out of that hallway and down to the room where the ladder was unless something changed. And it was the combination of the new technology, exterior fire water applications into a fire, and we just freed up a whole engine company. We had one guy standing in the lawn knocking the whole fire out. We freed up a whole engine company to do other things. So again, tying everything together, fantastic. Again, I couldn't be prouder of my guys.
Clark, I cannot think of a better closing for this session than what you just said. It completely wraps it up. We're just about out of time. I want to thank again Key Fire Hose. They're our sponsor. You can reach them at keyfire.com, and you can participate in these Google Hangouts at the hashtag FETalk. And I want to thank all of our participants today, Chief Halton, Captain Lamping, the good Chief Shaw, Chief Roden, my good friend Captain Hovelman, and Captain Dugan. Thank you so much. And
Hey, Bill.
I'm
Sorry.
so proud to be part of this group.
I just want to real quick ask everybody to consider our hot class at FDIC this year, the firefighter bailout techniques, and as we close it out, just wanted to give that plug in there. We're getting close, and thanks for the consideration, and had a great hangout today.
Thank you.